Okay, welcome to issue 94 of the r2d2 build. Today there's not actually much to do in the way of assembly, but we have received this, which is called the MCU. I presume that means Master Control Unit. And this is R2's brain. It's got all sorts of connections on it, as you can see. The more obvious ones are the connections to the switch and the power supply, the battery pack there, and all sorts of connections to be made there. Like I said, there's very little in the way of assembly this week. All we're going to be doing really is putting these two clips on top of the box, on top of the MCU. They're held in place by the normal 6mm screws, I think. So we'll just be putting a couple of those on top of there, and we'll be sliding the MCU into place. It's just held in place by these two little clips on the back. Just to mention last week's issue, there was some confusion over these two little screws in the back of the mounting plate here, because they weren't mentioned in the instructions. If you look through issue 94 and you look at the picture for step 7, you can see that the screws are in place. So if you just get a couple of the 2.5mm screws, they can be fitted at this stage. That was obviously a mistake in issue 93 not to mention it. So that's a job I'll be doing later. And as you can see, the assembly instructions are quite simple this week. It's just put the clips on the top of the MCU and slide it into place. So that's what we're going to do. Let's just take a good look at this. Make sure we get the clips the right way up, because it's dead easy to put them in the wrong way round. Okay. Right, let's start with that the right way up. And the first one goes that way round. You can see that? So the hole is actually on that side. And that's going to be held in place, I would assume, by the standard 6mm screws. It is indeed. There's a whole load of screws and washers and things included in this issue, and some long silver screws which should be used for mounting the motor that rotates the dome. There's all sorts of screws and bits and bobs included this week, but we'll just be using 4 little 6mm screws to hold these clips in place. It's a very easy build, but it's obviously a very important part of the electronics. I think, like everybody else, I'm itching to plug all these wires in, but I must advise against plugging anything in, and don't put any power into this unit before it's been properly connected up to everything. I know it's very tempting to put the battery pack in and try things, but please don't. Right, the second clip, are they both facing the same way? Yes they are, they're both facing that way. You're going to end up something that looks a bit like that. 2 more 6mm screws to hold that one in place. Okay. Well, we've ended up with something that looks a bit like that. There we go. That's the cable clips mounted to the top of the MCU. And just give those a final tweak. Just nip those up slightly. There are going to be an awful lot of cables in the bottom half of the droid, and these cable clips are very important to keep everything out of the way. Okay, I'm happy with that now. We can take a closer look at that. As you can see, all the sockets are labelled, but it's not really clear at this stage which one's which. So I'd advise you again not to plug anything in just yet. Apart from the one that actually says on and off on it. The red one is quite obviously the on and off switch, but don't plug anything in yet because we've not been told to. And I've got a feeling there's probably some quite complex chips inside here and you don't want to damage them. Right, and once you've put cable clips on top, all you've got to do is slip the box into place, and it's got to go that way up. Okay, so you've got this long line of connectors at the top, and it just slips right into the top of the droid. Okay, and we line it up with the top of the holes and just push down. And that's it. I'm just going to lift R2 up, so hopefully we can get a better view of that. Just light that up a bit. And you can see that in place there. And I'm just going to check underneath that everything's clipped into place in the two holes. Yep, that's fine, I'm happy with that. Good. And that is it for issue 94. That's all you've got to do. Just put the MCU in place and a couple of cable clips. We'll have a look at 95. We're getting pretty near the end now. 95, there's some mounting hardware for the motor that rotates the dome. There's a few, as you can see, a few metal components that they're all to do with the dome rotation motor, and we'll be assembling those next week. So that's it. That's the MCU installed, and that's all you're going to do in issue 94. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week.